I've never loved James Cameron's Avatar. Seeing it again during the 2022 re-release really cemented my thoughts on this forgotten icon. As an out-of-body immersive experience, it is unrivaled. The film hasn't aged a day. But that focus on the immersion and escapism kneecaps the depth and nuance the narrative had potential for. No sequence illustrates this better than the film's spectacular climax. As far as delivering catharsis to the audience goes, it is perfect. Every detail and encounter from Jake's journey gets paid off in some way, showing the power and beauty of Pandora. Technically, it's flawless, and never fails to put a smile on my face. But from a narrative standpoint, it's always felt lacking. The creatures of Pandora triumphantly arrive to save the day, but they only do so because Jake asked them to. Jake seeks the help of thousands of Na'vi to fight alongside him, yet he takes down the dropship single-handedly. Everything that happens on screen is reverse engineered from Jake saving the day. For a film that preaches balance, everything is in service of Jake's power fantasy. This is why the best part of the climax is the fallout after the Valkyrie ship goes down. Not because the conclusion to the attack was obvious, but because the stakes become a lot more personal and heightened. There's genuine tension whether Quaritch will kill Jake for betraying his side. Instead of clearing the runway for success, the film piles complications onto Jake as he fails to defend himself. In the end, the only reason he lives is because he's saved by the far more interesting character in the movie. In this final brawl, we get a glimpse into the amazing film Avatar could have been. What if Cameron gave the film just a bit more bite? Anyway, Avatar: The Way of Water's climax hits like a fire extinguisher to the face. This behemoth 40-minute long battle was the highlight of the film all 3 times I saw it in theaters. This climax gives its entire ensemble cast things to do, uses all of the new motion capture technology to the fullest, and delivers the most gnarly PG-13 action seen in ages. Earlier in 2022, Top Gun Maverick perfected the classical Hollywood third act finale, reinventing the Death Star trench run for the modern age. Everything Avatar struggles with, Maverick masters. But The Way of Water is not trying to replicate the thrill of Avatar's climax. This is a much darker, more personal affair. The Empire to Avatar's A New Hope. I would not be the Star Wars fan I am if it weren't for Empire. And similarly, it's The Way of Water's chaotically cathartic climax that finally got me on board this series. This is the scene where Avatar finally became great. My biggest issue with the original Avatar was how the film never expanded the stakes beyond Jake's selfish desires. Throughout the narrative, we learn to explore and love Pandora, but that only matters to the extent that it preserves Jake's fantasy. But in The Way of Water, that fantasy has finally become Jake's reality, with the whole family to boot.
Smiley's gone.
Not only does Jake's larger family give us more characters to care about, but they also expose the convenience of Jake's bravery. In Avatar, Jake became Turok Makto and led the Na'vi to victory. But he was only able to achieve this because he had nothing else to lose, and Aowa paved the way. But once the ghosts of his past return and come dangerously close to taking away the family he's built, Jake's instinct is to flee, to find another Na'vi village, and redo all the fish out of water adventures from the first film. While the film beautifully pulls off its nature-driven storytelling, there is an intentional deja vu grounded in Jake's actions. This is exactly what Jake did last time, to escape into adventure. And since it worked out so well, we do it once again. But also just like last time, the fantasy has to be threatened. And where in the first Avatar, Quaritch came to destroy Home Tree and the Tree of Souls, this time Quaritch comes to use Jake's family as bait. Through the help of Payakan, Jake and his new tribe of warriors fight back to protect their children. And for the first half of the battle, things play out roughly how you'd expect. Once again, we get an interconnected battle centered around a massive warship, allowing Cameron to flex his action muscles to the fullest. But then suddenly, halfway through the fun, everything changes.
You scum! And shut.
I love everything about how this tragedy happens on screen. First off, it's so effective to not show Neteyam getting shot. The entire film in general does a great job at making firefights chaotic and terrifying, and where the tense opening shootout establishes the stakes for the narrative, this moment finally makes them real, as by the time Neteyam is on shore surrounded by his family, it's already too late. Now, I want to briefly talk about death and grief and how they intersect with action storytelling. Death is the foundation for so much action. It is the ultimate action to take a life, and it's arguably the most powerful emotion a film can evoke. That being said, deaths in action scenes are very formulaic and even safe. We all expect the villain to get a satisfying end, or the hero who's been in a few too many movies to get a noble sacrifice. We all know the beats. But a kid dying so randomly in the middle of this climax hits completely different. We have many action scenes that start or end with grief, but rarely do they occur right in the middle, partly because it's a complex emotion that can interfere with the fun. One film that handles this poorly is The Force Awakens. We get this wonderful death for Han Solo, but then the film moves on faster than the Kessel Run into the action that we barely take it in. Even the first Avatar struggles with this. Its final battle has a much higher body count than its sequel, but the momentum of the mission takes over, so we hardly notice the losses. Oh no, that guy. But Cameron understands the power of this moment. We expect mentors to die. We expect supporting characters to die. We don't expect children to die.
I want to go home.
The kids behind me on my second viewing were sobbing, which is the highest acclaim a film can achieve. It confirms that the stakes for the film were real, and then threatens them again to Jake and Neytiri's daughters.
Same deal as before.
You for them.
We will always care more about the personal stakes in a film over the larger scale ones. It's a cliche for second films in the franchise to suddenly go dark, to raise the stakes and really twist the knife in our heroes. But the thing that makes a great dark sequel isn't just that they're dark to their characters, what defines them is how they reveal the darkness already within them. The Way of Water is a dark sequel through and through. It even uses Pandora's eclipses to make this literal. Cameron isn't a subtle filmmaker. But where the film finds the most darkness is through Zoe Saldana's performance as Neytiri. We all know of motion capture and how it's used to make action scenes, but for Avatar, Jim calls it performance capture, and it's scenes like this that really show the difference. The momentum of the action forces Neytiri to immediately transition from grieving her son to protecting her daughters, and in Neytiri's eyes, we see her disassociate and transform into the hunter she needs to become. From a pure action level, this sequence is well beyond its peers. We effortlessly track as Jake and Neytiri go in and out of cover to annihilate Quaritch's goons. There's nothing flashy here, it's just obstacles and solutions. Resources, environment, movement. Changes in perspective occur on the major action beats, allowing us to see the full wrath Jake and Neytiri are unleashing. Action storytelling is always at its best when it's unspoken. Earlier in the film, during a key conversation, we established the importance of Neytiri's bow.
My father gave me this bow as he lay dying, and he said protect the people.
But in this battle, it is just another blunt object to destroy her enemies. Neytiri will do anything to get her daughters back, which leads to my favorite moment in the film. Jake predictably falls into Quaritch's trap and is moments away from giving up his life to save Kiri.
You son of a bitch.
But when Spider intervenes, Neytiri uses this chance to turn the tables.
Release, or I got.
Of all the things dark sequels have done, I don't think I've ever seen a main character threaten to kill a kid before. Nevertheless, a kid they helped raise.
I got.
And at this moment, I honestly didn't know what would happen next because of her performance. The sequel to Avatar, one of the safest blockbusters ever made, got me to think that a main character would murder a child. No! Thankfully, the threat is a bluff that works and reunites Neytiri with her children. We think the darkness is over, but first, Jake has one last terrible decision to make.
I'm coming for you. When I do, I'll kill your whole family.
Dad!
Then let's get it done.
Out of the frying pan and into the fire, the entire family is torn apart as they are engulfed by the chaos surrounding them. It is equal parts the factory fight in Terminator 2 and the entire third act of Titanic. We frantically cut between each character's peril, and whenever we return, they are in worse trouble than before. The escalations each character faces feeds into the chaos the next character experiences. Spider and Kiri climbing the ship as it turns over informs the shifting gravity of Jake and Quaritch's fight. Each on their own is helpless to save anything, and coming so late into the climax, we feel the sheer physical exhaustion of the characters on screen. As the tension rises, the camera gets tighter and tighter, closing off the characters from safety and trapping us in there with them. Finally, the chaos calms down, but by this point, exhaustion has kicked in, and Jake and Neytiri have lost all hope and energy for escape.
I can't make it. You can't. You can't.
No.
You gotta go right now.
No. Can't lose you too, Dad. Please.
It's only after enduring complete darkness that the film finally gives us. Just like last time, the lessons learned from the film's adventures come in handy to save the day, but there is nothing triumphant about this victory. Jake and Neytiri are saved by the skills they didn't understand, the bonds they didn't approve of, the failures they saw while escaping their problems. The first Avatar told its story purely through Jake's perspective, and as such only ever reflected his narrow worldview. But with The Way of Water, we finally see these characters through different eyes.
I see you, son.
And with this new perspective, we see how broken and ill-prepared our heroes really are. Jake and Neytiri could have fought back from the beginning, but in order to become fully committed, they needed to face the full consequences they didn't truly experience in the first film. In The Way of Water, they faced tragedy, failed on their own, then endured as a family, staying put to face the troubles Pandora has in store. I couldn't ask for a better setup for this franchise. Before we end things, I want to give a huge shout out to my good friend Bailey at Loverboy Media, who edited this video, and he did an absolutely phenomenal job. If you want to see his video on Avatar, click the link right here. It's just as fantastic. Make sure, while you're doing that, to like, subscribe, follow me on Twitter, and as always, thank you for watching.